that we all must have come down a new forcing throne of some sort. Thanks for the support.
Hi, everybody. It's Kevin Connors here, and welcome to today's episode of MTC Live. Really, really excited today because we're bringing back one of the MTC alumni who has gone on to huge things, and we're going to spend some time talking with him about that today. So that's who you saw in the opening clip. So please welcome Logan Hart from the cast of Broadway's Jagged Little Pill. Come on in, Logan.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Logan. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's good to see you.
That's good. It's great to see you too. So kind of a weird time right now, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everyone is just doing their best to survive the lockdown and maintain some sense of sanity, if there was some to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
On my end.
Yeah. And particularly tough, I think, in the Broadway community right now because of the feeling of what's next, when are we going to reopen, a little bit of the loss of all of that and everything.
Yeah, there's definitely been some lows. Putting a pause on our show that was doing pretty well and having some good ticket sales was really hard. This would have been my first time performing at the Tony Awards, and having that canceled was hard. But hopefully we're looking forward to reopening sooner rather than later, assuming that everything is safe and healthy for everyone involved.
That's great. That's great to hear. Well, we're going to do a little like MTC rewind here for a second. So
Great.
I met Logan quite a while ago now. We produced a production, and I was fortunate enough to direct a production of Next to Normal back in 2012. And I cast Logan as Gabe, and he was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that experience a little bit. And I think at the same time, we're going to show a couple of production shots from that. So RJ, whenever you want to bring those in, feel free to do that.
Oh, yes. Juliet Lambert Pratt.
Yep.
And Will. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. That's great. And there's the whole company. It was a great experience.
It was.
So tell me about Gabe. Tell me about your experience with that show with us.
Oh, I mean, that show just has a special place in my heart. It is definitely one of my top 5 favorite musicals of all time. To me, it kind of speaks to the reason that I chose to do musical theater, which is, to teach people about humanity. When you see emotion and psychology on stage, it kind of helps you connect the dots in your own life and maybe view things from a different perspective. And that show is so beautiful, talking about trauma and loss and how people deal with that and how families can either bond together or fall apart in certain circumstances, and how you move forward with that. I mean, the closing song in the show, Light, to me is one of the most beautiful songs in musical theater, because it speaks to, through all of the darkness, looking for that light at the end of the tunnel and trying to find some hope.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just a beautiful production. It was so much fun to be involved in, specifically at MTC, where we had an intimate setting with the audience, and we were able to see the interactions with the audience members sitting there, and how it touched them, and the energy interplay between the cast and the audience was really, really special.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
It was a really great experience. Certainly. With you, one of my top 5 directorial experiences ever. I mean, the cast, the show itself, it really is an amazing show. So it was interesting because I don't even know if you know this story. I think I've told you this story before, but about, I suppose, I mean, Logan will know the timeline on this. I don't remember the timeline, but soon after Next to Normal closed, I got a call from a casting director friend of mine in New York who happened to be the casting director for the Book of Mormon, the tour for the Book of Mormon. Yes. And so she called me and she said, we're looking at this guy who we think we really want to hire for the tour. And I saw that he did Gabe for you and Next to Normal. Can you tell me about, your experience with him? And of course, I went crazy and said how fabulous Logan was, and great to work with, and brilliantly talented and all that stuff. And she said, okay, well, I think that's all I need to know. And soon after that, you were hired for the Book of Mormon for the tour.
Yeah.
How long did you tour with that show?
I was with the show for 3 years, actually. It was one of my, favorite performance opportunities to be involved with. I had some personal history having grown up in the Mormon Church. And so for me, it was a extremely full circle moment to be able to be performing in that show. And actually, we were the first company to tour through Salt Lake City and perform the show there. And it was a really fantastic, once in a lifetime opportunity. The show was hysterical. I was with it for 3 years and never got bored. I played about 14 different characters in the show. I was in the ensemble, and every night there was the interplay with the laughs from the audience, and just feeling so much support and joy, and that we could, allow people to forget about life for a minute and have some chuckles and enjoy their evening.
That's great. That's great. So cut through to a few years ago.
Yes.
You were cast in the developmental production of the Alanis Morissette musical Jagged Little Pill, which of course was just on Broadway and will be again. So I think probably one of the most fulfilling experiences for an actor, and certainly for anybody on the creative team, is to actually have the opportunity to develop a show from the very, very beginning.
Yes.
So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about that process, because you guys tried out in Boston too, right?
We did, yes, Cambridge.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about like the workshop going into that, the rehearsals going into that, how things change as you're doing it, and the process itself.
Yeah, there was actually a really interesting tie-in from Book of Mormon as well. I was working on Book of Mormon, and the music director, Justin Mendoza, was a really good friend of mine. And we had been singing through some material just for fun after the shows, and I was singing some Alanis Morissette material. And he said, this reminds me of the 10th anniversary acoustic version of the album, and I had never heard that before. And so I started listening through that, and we started singing through some more material. And after Book of Mormon closed, he and I decided, before we had heard anything about the production that was happening in New York, that we would go to San Francisco and do a one-man cover of the entire Jagged Little Pill album at Piano Fight in San Francisco. And so we did that on our own, and I think it was about 9 months to a year later that the auditions were starting to happen for Jagged Little Pill. And I went through about 6 or 7 rounds of auditions for Jagged Little Pill. And it was one of those auditions where at the end of it, I was like, wow, I think I kind of blew it. I didn't feel like it was the best performance that I could give in the audition. I didn't think that we had quite been on the same page in the audition room. And the next day, my agent called me and said, "You booked it." And I was kind of shocked and surprised. But I was able to work on the workshop, the initial workshop for the show. That was done in New York City. And that's kind of an internal experience where you spend a month kind of developing the material that you would put on stage. So that's all done internally. And we had a bit of a presentation at the end of it of kind of what the show's shape would be like. But we were working directly with Diablo Cody, who was who wrote the book for the show, and working on how our characters would say the lines, what lines the characters would say, how the show would develop. And it's a very close interplay between the writers and the director and the developers of the show. So it's a really, really special experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And when we were talking yesterday to get ready for the interview, you told me that the producers have stayed in close touch with you about their plans to reopen the show, right?
They have. Yeah, they're taking every opportunity to try and continue the PR through this. We were able to perform for glad the other night as they were doing a live stream to benefit Centerlink for a youth charity for LGBT youth. And they really want to make sure that the show can reopen as soon as it's safe on Broadway and as soon as audiences are willing to come back. And hopefully we can continue to share that story, which I've been involved with for a little bit over 3 years now, since its inception, or since my beginnings in the workshop, until we opened on Broadway and unfortunately had to close because of coronavirus. But the producers are really excited about making sure they're doing everything to reopen the show when we have a chance. That's great. Well, I trust it's a little break. Just a little recess, and you guys will be coming back. Vacation. Yeah, exactly. Just like everybody else. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by, Logan. It's been such a pleasure. It's always so great to see you. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's wonderful to see you. Yeah, best of luck with everything, and we'll look forward to that reopening. And if you haven't seen Jagged Little Pill, you're going to want to get out to see it because it's really a fantastic production. Thanks so much, Logan. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, bye. So that's Logan Hart, and he is absolutely just one of the most genuine, lovely, wonderful, talented guys I know. And again, a little plug for Jagged Little Pill. If you haven't seen it, you're going to get the chance to see it again, I'm certain, as soon as Broadway reopens. So actually, to close today's episode of MTC Live, we're going to go out with an Alanis Morissette tune done by Logan Hart at a performance at 54 Below. So please stay safe, be well, and have a great week, everybody.
And it would knock me to the floor if I wasn't there already. If only I could hunt the hunter. And all I really want is some peace, man. This mind common ground. And all I really want is deliverance. Do I wear you out? You must wonder why I'm relentless and all strung out, consumed by the chill of a solitary. I'm like a Stella. I like to reel it in and then spit it out. I'm frustrated by your apathy. And I am frightened by the corrupted ways of this man. If only I could be the maker. Then I am fascinated by the spiritual man. I am humbled by his humble nature. And what I wouldn't give to me a soulmate, someone else connected with. And what I wouldn't give to me to get read. Enough about me, let's talk about you for a minute. Enough about you, let's talk about life for a while. The conflicts, the craziness, and the sound of tenses falling all around. All around. Why am I so petrified of silence? Here, can you handle this? Did you think about your bills, your ex, your deadlines, or when you think you're gonna die? Or did you long for the next distraction? And all I need now is intellectual intercourse. So dig the hole much deeper. And I have all I really want is some peace, man. Place to find a common ground. And all I really want is a way to play. All I really want is some comfort, a way to get my hands untied. And all I really want is some justice. All I really want is some patience, a way to calm me down. And all I really want is some peace, man, and a higher ground. All I really want is some patience, a way to calm me down. All I really want is some peace, man, and a higher ground.